JB here. JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Tuesday, September 23rd, 9:10 a.m. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P pretty much flat as a pancake here. Actually, yeah, NASDAQ is 0.00%. Same with the S&P. So flat pre-market. And we'll see how today plays out. Yesterday, opened slightly in the red, melted into the green by 10:30, and then it was just kind of like a slow melt up. Impressive stuff. Markets closed at all-time highs, and there's not much in the way of catalyst. Today you have Fed Chair Powell speaking at the Economic Forum of Rhode Island, something to some kind of economic forum. I don't know how he gets the invite. Like, do you just invite him over for dinner and then broadcast that as some kind of uh, live event? But anyway, it's gonna be a moderated conversation. So who knows if he's gonna make comments, but that's at 12:30 today. And then after the close, Micron. And all these events now with anything related to AI or that whole energy space, it's all eyes gonna be on the Capex, right? And I think the expectations or the guidance for Micron is like 16 billion. So if that's upticked, is that going to add more fuel to this fire? Um, but that's after the close today. Then we get the last final revision of second quarter GDP. Thursday we have weekly jobless claims, and then Friday's PCE data. And I don't know if any of this is going to mean too much, right? So it just gives people something to talk about. But to me, it's like as the week progresses, the more conversations will be around the government shutdown, right? Is that going to happen? It's a week from, I think, September 30th, so a week from today. Just there's always got to be the headlines got to fill the vacuum, right? There's always when there's no catalyst, there's no Fed meeting or earnings or any kind of crazy event. They got to fill the vacuum with some other kind of catalyst, and typically those catalysts, especially with markets at all-time highs, are going to be some of the bearish variety, right? That's just how things work. But pretty impressive. I mean, we got a week and a half until we get out of a historically horrible performing month, and it looks like, I mean, the S&P, I can see what it is year to date, and I mean month to date, excuse me. Uh, it's got to be 2.5. Why don't I have this? Last week was up 0.5%. No, 3.66%. So pending any crazy pullback, I mean, it's going to be a very strong September performance. All right, that's kind of the overall markets. I put it on a watch list this morning. That upper Bollinger Band on the SPY is now 6. Is it 66679? Right? Is that right? Maybe I don't have the right update on there. So just watching that as possible resistance. It's tough to tell kind of, as we keep hitting areas at uncharted territory, it's tough to even find resistance because it's not like they don't have stops up there, right? So, and then on the flip side, 660.06, right? That might be the lows from last, I think it was Thursday. Watching that as kind of support. Nice little piece this morning. I think it was the Wall Street Journal talking, or maybe it's Market Watch, around the amount of stocks on the S&P that account for the gains and the weighting, right? Because if you look at an index, the Dow is kind of, it's meaningless, right? Because of the weighting when you have the highest priced stock like a United Healthcare accounting for a majority of the loss or gains just based on that one stock when you should have the highest market cap company. Should be weighting by market cap, but that's not the case. You look at the S&P, the S&P is, but 22 of the companies in the S&P account for over 50% of the weighting. So is that a real index anymore? All right, so that's kind of overall markets. Things I'm always, I keep talking about the yields, and sure enough, yesterday yields ticked up just a little bit. Just want to see those at some point flatline or start to go the other direction. All right, so that's kind of quick on overall markets. Now, individual names, obviously, well, not obviously. First, I'll talk about SERV. If you watch SERV Robotics over the last 6 to 10 months, it used to trade no volume in the pre-market, maybe a couple shares. The spreads are wide. Now it's like trading like there's news every morning. And again, this morning, you look at the volume, a couple 100,000 shares traded. That's what it looks like, I think. On a name that's, it's a market, it's a small cap. And let's see what it is, $200 million market cap. It probably has more. Well, actually, what am I? $823 million market cap. So, I mean, just impressive stuff. So I don't know, if it's this like a ticking time bomb. Is this, again, it's huge short interest. So, I mean, let's see, it's still 27% short interest. So is that the shorts trying to position themselves every day or trying to unwind in the pre-market? I really don't know. I mean, to me, it's a good thing because look at the stock, it's gapping higher here. It's up 75 cents. I don't see any news or catalyst. And it seems like yesterday, same thing with the volume. So over $15, I'll look to add some more strikes here. Still have the January's, a couple Octobers left. I'll probably, if it gets over 15, I'll just lock the rest of the Octobers and then look for some higher strikes. But I think if it holds 15, I think $18 and then maybe some FOMO. And I shouldn't say maybe. At some point, it's going to be FOMO. Take a look yesterday, Uber over $100 for the first time. It's I made that post on TripAdvisor back in December of last year or January. I mean, the Uber CEO, I'm not very good at pronouncing his name, but he wants Uber to be a super app, right? And encompass everything that's going on. I mean, and SERV is right there. The last mile delivery. Not saying that they acquire them. This spin-off from Postmates. There's already a partnership for the 2,000 robots already set up. Supposed to be officially rolled out next year. So I don't know, as a M&A target, but it just, to me, it just adds more value to the company and the sector as a whole. All right, so that's SERV Robotics. Let's see if it closed over 15 today. GameStop had its best day in a couple months yesterday. Well, at least closing at highs not seen in a couple months. Gaps to fill on the upside, 28.25. Closed some of my October strikes, 30s out for 100%. I was looking for more strikes, but I'm just gonna be patient here. It's not like it's having huge swings here. It was over 27 for most of the day, then pulled back into the close, sitting here at 26.87. Still similar to SERV. I think this one catches fire at some point. So, I was looking at some risk reward strikes. I'm like, maybe the November 40s. Because once it breaks out, the premium is going to go bonkers, right? And even if it just gets over $30, the $40 November strikes, which are 77, is that right? 69 by 77, those will be a couple bucks. So I might get those today if it gets over 27 and holds. That's GameStop. Duolingo. Talking about on the rant yesterday morning, I'm waiting for this one to bounce. I've traded it off and on over the last week or so. And then it opens at 289. It's in the red. 932, 933, and then all of a sudden it got some buying. Then it's not 290, then 294, and I start looking at some of the strikes. And I tried to get the 320s for $1, couldn't get a fill. I look back at the chart, still going. Tried to get the 325s at $1, couldn't get those, then $1.20, then $1.50, and then finally, I'm trying to rationalize the trade because the market's moving quick. So I'm like, do I pull the trigger or do I wait? And my rationalization on Duolingo is like, if it goes, it's not gonna matter if I get the 325s for $1.70 or the 330. It's the premium is gonna go bonkers. So got those 325s within a matter of like 20 minutes. I was able to close some out for over 100% to cover some costs. I just held the rest all the way up to 310.92, and then it got up to 310 towards the end of the day and just kind of fizzled. It's down here a little here in the pre-market. I keep saying, and maybe I'm not naive enough to think I know I'm correct on Duolingo, right? Maybe I'm 100% off base here. That the advent of all these capabilities that allow folks to translate different languages on the go is going to make Duolingo not relevant, or at least not as much demand for their product and service. Maybe that's the case. I don't think that's the case. I think there's a great opportunity here. So at some point, I think it bounces in a major way. And I was hoping yesterday was the start of it, and we'll find out today at the open here. I'm just going to continue to hold my strikes, even if it breaks under 300 at the open. And if it gets back over 310, I might look for 350 calls. I was on the rant yesterday afternoon, and I'm looking at those 350s. I think they were 85, 90 cents. Again, if it goes and it's 325 by the end of today, the 350 is going to be up a couple 100%. So that's kind of rationalization there. Just going to continue to look for opportunities on Duolingo. Got TTD yesterday. TTD, I've been watching this melt since its earnings, and I had those calls after its S&P edition. Those paid very handsomely, right? And then I was going to trade into earnings. Thankfully, didn't do that. A lot of issues, and I was talking about it in regards to their guidance, their CFO, and some of the expectations that they had given shareholders, and they haven't been able to meet them. It was just kind of like just a bad situation, right? When you're a company that's a high growth company, you almost sometimes it's best to be conservative. I mean, shareholders might not like it, but when earnings come and you're conservative, and then you can do beat and raises, does a heck of a lot better for your stock than not being conservative and then not showing beats and raises. And the stock just got pummeled. And you look at the earnings for TTD, and it's like it was decent earnings. You're like, why is this down so much? It's like the street is catching up to the name. They've downgraded lower price targets. And to me, it's like at some point, this is going to have a major bounce. So I'm not saying a major bounce up to $100 or $90. I think, $46 now, does get to 50 on a nice bounce, 52, somewhere in there. So that's kind of thought process there. I got some lottos yesterday. Probably if it 45, 75, if it can't hold that today and there's some weakness, I'll probably just look to salvage them and revisit. At some point, it'll have some I don't know if it'd be a multi-day move or a 2-day move where a lot of those are going to pay. So I don't know if it's this week. I don't know if it's, Thursday, Friday, but I'll continue to look for opportunities on this one too if these don't play out. So that was the thought process there on TTD. Reddit got an upgrade this morning, or at least a price target upgrade from Cannonball Research. I don't know who brainstorms these, but I don't even, I'm trying to think if I've ever heard of this analyst before. But just another one of these analysts playing catch up on Reddit on the upside. So they have a buy rating. I don't know if this is going to do anything for the stock, but Reddit disappointing over the last like 4 sessions. You look at the chart is like, is this a top or is this consolidation before the next leg? Of course, I think the latter. Can't rule out both sides here, but I still think this trade is 300, 350, 400. I still have those 330 freebies. I'll continue to hold those. Of course, in hindsight, maybe I should have locked more of those in last week when they're up over 100%. But tough one to time, right? It's been volatile. Hey, you never know. It could come back to life. But I'll continue to look for opportunities on this one. The 295 or 300s look interesting. If it finds a bid and gets over 260 here, but maybe the churning's not done, the consolidation, so maybe it needs another couple days. That's Reddit. And then I was talking about FICO yesterday afternoon. At some point you got to think this one bounces, right? And to me, it wasn't even like it is a fundamental story at some point, right? The market's pricing in, hey, they're not going to be the bellwether, the gold standard for mortgages, right? But you look at the premiums and it's almost impossible. Only monthly strikes, and you start looking, I'm like $1,800 calls. I think they're like $10. So I don't even know if the risk reward, unless it had a major squeeze to the upside, it's probably the risk there to get calls to play for that kind of move. Yeah, spreads are wide. So the 1760 October strikes are 590 by $10. The stock's at 1550 right now. So 24 days to expiration. That risk reward doesn't jive for me. I'm not saying they won't pay out if it does bounce, but to me, I'd rather not waste, but find another setup that has a better, at least less expensive premiums. So that's FICO. Last but not least, IIPR, right? Lucky to close the last of my October strikes out on Friday for over 100%, and then boom, it sold off yesterday. I didn't see any news or catalysts. Some of the other cannabis names are selling off, so I don't know if that was it. But still watching this one for the move back over 57.50. I think that's it, folks. I was talking about this morning this Capex spend thing. It's like back in the day when everybody gets together, I used to call it with the big short pieces, right? All these people who, the Spruce Point Capital, Hindenburg Research, Fuzzy Panda, all these folks who write these bear pieces on stocks, and a lot of stocks like Roblox, GL, there's all these others that are substantially higher than when they came out with these pieces. But it seems like they all collude or get together and beat up the stock all at the same time. They did with Roblox, right? It seemed like every week they're coming out a new piece. I used to call it the big circle jerk, right? You got me, I got you, the guy, and they all come together. It's similar, and like at some point, this Capex spend situation story, it's going to come to a head, and I hopefully in a good way, right? But every quarter that comes out with some of these names, it's like they always bump up their Capex spend, especially with the mega cap names. But it's like the big elephant in the room now is this Oracle situation, right? And Oracle had great earnings, their guidance monster, throwing out $500 billion in these revenue purchase orders or RPOs, whatever they're called. And then, you start digging in and it's like 300 billion of that is from OpenAI. So it's like, how is OpenAI going to pay 60 billion a year for 60 billion for 5 years when they don't even generate like 6 billion in revenues right now? So who knows? At some point, the rooster comes to roost, or whatever they're going to call it. Who knows if that's the black swan event? And then you guys start thinking about the market as a whole, right? And everybody talks about the inflation and the consumer's like 60 whatever percent of the economy, But it's like how much of the move up in the markets is because of the Capex and AI, right? So things, some fodder for other days, but things just to think about, because it seems like every day now you read about more of these, the $100 billion investment yesterday between NVIDIA and OpenAI, and it's like these continue to come out, and then at some point it's like, okay, where's all this money coming from? And well, we'll see. Food for thought. All right, let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.